o'clock.
It's fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for coming or attending today. I really appreciate that. Let me get on. We do have just a couple of announcements. I see that Bob Davies on today, and he is stepping down at the end of the year after 19 years on the town council. Bob, it's been a great ride for you. Do you want to say just a few words?
Nothing really special. I mean, I've just really enjoyed all my work with Land to Sky and the Transportation Committee, but you know, it's just time to let somebody else step up, and I feel good about what we've done in the last 19 years.
Thank you so much for your service, and I'm going to be sad to see you go. Also, Jerry Vaughn is stepping down as mayor of Woodfin after 20 years. I don't think he's on.
He's not on today.
He's on, but we would like to thank Jerry Vaughn for all of his service as well, and I believe he'll be at the end of the year, or this was his last.
I believe this is his last meeting as a board member.
Okay, great. But thank you. As you know, the MPO is the most thankless job, so I want to take the opportunity to say thank you. Next, I'll read the ethics statement. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any non-conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved. Do we have any conflict? Yeah. Next, we'll move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment?
Yes.
Fantastic.
So regarding the P7 submittal list, we've received 10 comments online over the past month during the public comment period. 9 of those were regarding the Fanning Bridge Road project that we're submitting. We're submitting as a multiple intersection improvement project. They all were supporting, 3 of those supported or expressed interest in widening the road. 3 supported bicycle pedestrian improvements, and 1 opposed bicycle pedestrian improvements, wanting to discourage bike ped traffic on that road. And to note, we are also submitting a bike ped project on that road as well, right?
Yes, there's a sidewalk project on our bike ped submittal list.
And this is,
and then we have one comment about
this is Bob. I just wanted to let you know, I did not solicit any of those comments. No, I mean, that's impressive that people want to get involved without having me going out asking for it.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That says something about your community.
I think it really does. Or how bad the road is.
That might be the real driving factor.
And we had one other comment about the Emma Road sidewalk project that we're submitting, and that was from the Emma Neighborhood Council, and they expressed concern stating that the project doesn't reflect priorities identified by the community, which is sidewalks on North Louisiana Ave.
Yeah, and just to note, MPO staff did hold a meeting with the Poder Emma representatives, with City of Asheville and Buncombe County staff. I was told that I broke a public servant commandment by having a meeting at 4:30 on a Friday. But we held that meeting. We talked through some of the issues, and in your updated board packet, highlighted is a note that on the submittal list, we've taken that project out and replaced that with a sidewalk project on North Louisiana Avenue.
So public comment helps. Great. Any other?
That's it.
That's it. Next, we'll do the approval of the agenda and consent agenda. Do I have any motions or any changes?
So moved.
We have a first. Do we have a second? Second. Thank you. Logan, it's your turn.
Okay, Black Mountain, Archie Taylor.
Here.
Buncombe County, Amanda Edwards.
Here.
Flat Rock, Ann Coletta.
Here.
Fletcher, Bob Davy.
Here.
Hayward County, Kevin Ensley.
Here.
Henderson County, Bill Lastly.
Here.
Henderson County, Rebecca McCall.
Here, and please acknowledge if you hear me.
Yep. Hear you. Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley. Laurel Park, George Banta.
Here.
Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Montree, Tom Whitmer.
Here.
Rural Transit, David White.
Here.
Waynesville, Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville, Catherine Cordell.
Did you get Jennifer Hensley? She took the other one.
Yes, I think we did.
Perfect, thank you. Next is business items, and the first one is the amendments to the 2024-2033 transportation improvements.
All right, and with that, I will hand it off to Logan.
So you may notice that the agenda packet is huge this month. The new interactive tip tool that I showed y'all earlier this year, I can't remember if it was last month or the month before that, allows us to print more detailed amendment reports than we could in the past. So with that, these packets are going to be a little bit longer now, but it's just more detailed information for each project being amended. And we also have almost 50 amendments this month because we haven't been able to amend this tip in the last few months while it was in the process of being adopted. So these are amendments that have kind of built up over the last few months. So the agenda package shouldn't be this cumbersome in the future, hopefully.
And just a quick note there, I noted this in the TCC. I think our record was something, I had it specific at the TCC. I think it was around 270 pages. So this ain't nothing. Be thankful it's not twice as long.
Well, I was hoping for a record.
We'll work on it.
Yeah.
Killing trees well into the future.
To build road.
That's right.
But yeah, I won't go through each project, but of note, there's been a few delays to projects, including the North Rab Greenway, Woodfin Greenway, and Riverwalk Greenway. Those have each been delayed construction a year to make time for more planning and engineering. There's also the addition of nationally significant federal land and travel project funds to the Acusta Trail, which was granted earlier this year to that project. There are several highway safety additions to the TIP, as well as 3 rail safety projects, which target a crossing in Asheville, a crossing in Black Mountain, and a crossing in Canton. There's 2 deletions. One is an intersection improvement on Weaverville Highway, and the other is the Texas Road pedestrian bridge project in Montreat. And finally, the set of amendments reflect the cost of, to the project, cost changes to I-2513AC, which is a section of the I-26 connector project that involves widening I-26 and 240 north of I-40 to Haywood Road in Asheville.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow. So is there any discussions about any of these?
I think just a couple things to note that also happened in some of the discussion is with some of these are locally administered projects. Those are projects funded through the MPO for implementation. And the current policy on the books for the MPO is that if a project has 2 delays, we reconsider funding for the project. We brought this up with the prioritization subcommittee with the projects that have hit that threshold. The recommendation is to keep moving with those projects. Just FYI, we are planning on having further discussions about that policy. I think in general, we want to keep a closer eye than we have been on project milestones to make sure that projects are continuing to move. However, a lot of delays to projects are not necessarily people just kicking up their feet. A lot of these projects we're seeing run into environmental issues, whether that's through flood modeling, finding issues under the ground that there's no way to know exists until you get out there, and also just the review periods with NCDOT. And so for us, it's a good thing to check in, but the prioritization subcommittee recommended with all of those projects that we keep moving forward. Because FYI, if we didn't, I would say that that is a fairly punitive measure to remove the funds. That would essentially leave the local jurisdiction on the hook for refunding any federal funds that have already been spent. So, long story short, we talked about it. Recommendation was to keep all of these projects moving forward, or the locally administered projects moving forward.
Sounds like a good idea and responsible for the municipalities. Any further discussion? Then I will entertain a motion. To approve the amendments to the 2024-2033.
Kim, you politely have your hand raised?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry that I'm running late. We had our council agenda briefing. Tristan or staff, can y'all let me know, is this the 4A that's also looking at Emma Road?
No, that'll be item 4B
Thank you.
with the proposed sidewalk project.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Kim.
So I'll make a motion to approve the amendments as discussed.
Perfect. I have a first. Do I have a second?
Thanks.
Thank you. Logan, you're on.
All right, Asheville Kim Roney,
Aye.
Black Mountain Art Super Taylor,
Aye.
Buncombe County Amanda Edwards,
Aye.
Flat Rock Ann Coletta,
Aye.
Fletcher Bob Davy,
Aye.
Haywood County Kevin Ensley,
Aye.
Henderson County Bill Lapsley,
Aye.
Henderson County Rebecca McCall,
Aye.
Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley,
Aye.
Laurel Park George Banta,
Aye.
Madison County Matt Wexel,
Aye.
Montreat Tim Widmer,
Aye.
Rural Transit David White,
Aye.
Waynesville Anthony Sutton,
Aye.
and Weaverville Catherine Corbell.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Actually, like I'm a little punchy today, I'm sorry. Next on the agenda is 4B, which is P7.0. And I'm glad we can say 7.0 now. Project submittal.
All right, let me scroll on over.
Maggie Ullman,
The automated reports. Good for beating up the agenda. But with this, I'll share some quick slides, just to kind of go over what exactly is today's decision and the projects that we're planning to submit.
Tristan,
Um,
I don't think you can
yeah.
hear me.
yeah,
I think Maggie
sorry?
is trying to ask a question, and I can like
Yeah,
barely
we're
hear
having
her.
some, we're having some technical difficulties in the room with volume. So if I don't hear you, just
I also barely heard her online, so I just wanted to let her know that and to notify you. I think she was trying to ask something.
I don't know if you can hear me
yeah,
better.
we're having that with a lot. Do we need to? Okay. Okay. So I just received some bad news about technical issues. Is we actually have to end the call and restart the meeting for.
It's just a phone call, not the meeting.
Just a phone.
Oh, okay.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, everyone stay online.
Everybody stay on. We have to
Sorry.
end our phone call internally and restart it, so you will not hear us for just a few minutes, maybe 60 seconds.
Maybe.
So we'll be going offline here for just a minute.
As soon as Anthony stops talking.
It is, in middle school.
Okay. I think we're back. Is the volume better for those online from us? Good.
Everyone speak?
Yeah.
We can see if we can hear you.
gosh.
So we can hear you fine. How do you hear me?
Oh, yes, thank you. Now we can hear you.
Okay.
As you were saying, someone had a question?
It was me. This is Maggie. I just was late for roll call, so I'm here. Sorry to cause all the disruption, but it sounds like it's better for everyone.
Oh, boy.
You solved all of our problems.
We just threw the whole meeting into the
Otherwise, it would have been awful. Thank
So
you.
we are scheduled to go, perhaps more call problems when the regular update starts.
There we go. There you go. So, let's start again. We're on item 4B, which is P7.0 projects. And Tristan's about to give us a presentation, and I understand there's going to be some discussion about this, especially from Kim. We'll have some discussion.
Yeah, so, just in general, what we're talking about today and where it kind of lies in the transportation planning process, prioritization, also known as SPOT, also known for this round as P7.0. That's kind of the interface between our long-range plans and projects that are identified and somewhat prioritized but unfunded, and basically determining what projects move on to get funded and go into the transportation improvement program and eventually implement it. So this is a key step in the process. Come on, computer. In general, what we're trying to figure out with this list of projects is what transportation projects should be funded next. That's generally what we're trying to get at. I won't go through necessarily all of this, but the prioritization process in North Carolina is governed by the Strategic Transportation Investments Act of 2012 that was signed by Governor McCrory. It essentially lays out how transportation funds will be utilized, distributed, and programmed for the majority of projects in the Transportation Improvement Program, the TIP and the STIP. In terms of funding distributions, they split out the funds into 3 different tiers. The first tier is statewide mobility, and it's the largest tier in terms of funding. 40% of the funds that go into this process go to the statewide mobility tier. Projects compete across the entire state. So our projects are competing with projects in Wilmington, Rocky Mount, Charlotte, Raleigh, etc. And the projects that are eligible are, for us, are interstates, so I-26, I-40, also strategic highways, so US 23 and 74, and aviation projects, if we had any. That would be through the Asheville Regional Airport. But that is one of the big funding tiers. In terms of how projects are determined, that is solely by quantitative score. So once we determine that a project is to be submitted into this process, NCDOT gives every project that's submitted a quantitative score based on things like congestion, safety, economic development, and other factors. And that score determines what projects in this tier get funded. The next tier is regional impact. The overall tier gets 30% of the funds. Those are further distributed across the state to different regions. Those regions are made up of 2 NCDOT divisions. So for us, I have deep apologies for everyone on the COG board that knows us as Region B, but in transportation, we're Region G. Someday there will be a conference to get all the regions as one. But those funds are distributed based on population. So to note, of the 30% in this pot, our region gets 8.6% roughly of the funds. That is the second smallest share of the funds because our population is the second smallest for regions. And the third funding pot, that is division needs, that also gets 30% of the funding. It's further distributed to the 14 different NCDOT divisions, and they're distributed equally. For both regional impact and division needs, the projects are selected based on both the quantitative score as well as local input points. And so it's an iterative process. We'll find out the scores to projects, and then we'll have a process within the MPO to decide what projects get local input points that help to make projects more likely to be funded. With regional impact projects, what's eligible are US and NC routes, but also anything from statewide mobility that doesn't get funded in the statewide mobility tier. For division needs, that's essentially everything else. So projects on secondary roads, bike ped projects, transit projects, and anything that isn't funded in statewide or regional impact. In terms of the general process for us, I try to simplify this, I swear, but these are kind of the key steps for the MPO. The first step is where we're at right now. That is submitting projects to be considered in this process. From there, projects get quantitative scores, statewide mobility projects are programmed, and then we start talking about what regional impact projects should receive local input points. I believe that's scheduled to happen in the summer of next year. From there, we find out what regional impact projects get programmed. Just a reminder, our regional impact tier currently has a balance of negative 74 million. Hopes are not too high on getting projects in that funding tier. From there, we'll talk about local input points for division needs projects. With the division needs funding tiers, we do have some funding available. I believe both have over $100 million that's estimated to be available, with Division 14 at about $200 million. At the end of that, we'll find out all of the projects that are successful. All the successful projects in this process will go into the draft TIP and STIP. That'll be released, and the final TIP and STIP will go for adoption at both the DOT Board of Transportation as well as the MPO board. One thing to note that's not in there is we generally have a fairly robust public input process. Usually around the time quantitative scoring comes out. In the past, we worked with the RPO and got more than 5,000 survey responses across our 5-county region. We are hoping to match that and do some more this round. So to us, we've been asked what's the most important point for the public to weigh in on the projects that are being considered. And I think through discussions with our Citizens Advisory Committee, we determined that that's really when it's most effective for the public to weigh in. But we do have other public input points as well. Bob, you have your hand raised?
Yes, you said our region was way in the minus. I take it that is mainly due to projects being over cost or prices going over?
That's correct. So, you know, if you all will remember earlier this spring, we talked about cutting the Sweeten Creek Road project due to cost increases there. So Sweeten Creek Road, we split at Mills Gap Road in order to try to alleviate the funding increases in the regional impact tier. However, even with that cut, the current estimate is that there will not be regional impact funds available for our region this round.
I mean, I understand what's happening here, but my question is, isn't every other region having the same problem?
The short answer is no. There are other regions where there is some funding available. That's not to say that we're the only region that made significant cuts to projects, but based on current estimates, other regions will have some funding available in that tier.
Well, should we put together a committee or something to investigate and get more details to find out what's going on here? Otherwise, we'll never get out of this hole.
I think we can probably request maybe something with the DOT programming unit to kind of go through what's in the regional impact tier. And just to kind of highlight all of the different projects that are funded in that tier. To note, in our region, we do have a number of very, very large projects funded in this tier. One of those is Section A of the I-26 connector. Another is the A10 project, that's the Future 26 widening and modernization from Broadway north to Weaverville. And not to mention Sweeten Creek Road as well. Those are very large projects that have seen significant cost increases. But again, it's not just us. There's projects across the state and in other parts of the region where those cost increases have impacted the regional impact budget as well.
It just seems like we're being penalized a little bit because we live in a region where road construction is higher than normal, but we're not really getting any extra compensation for that.
A very good point, Bob.
Thank you.
I agree. Bob, we're going to miss these questions and comments.
Yes. We don't have flat land, so, and we have rocks and rivers. And anyway, I think Ann Collette has her hand raised as well.
Right, thank you. I just wanted to support what Bob was asking about, and I also wanted clarification, and I probably have just missed this over the years, I guess, but in terms of our budget numbers, is that state money only, or does that also include federal? Because I would assume the I-26 has significant federal input.
It's both. So the state utilizes state and federal funds for transportation improvement projects. So they essentially determine what funds will go into this pot and then look at what projects are on the books and basically just do a quick revenues to expenses calculation.
Right. I guess I would also add, I know that because of the mountains, we have additional concerns with construction, but I know the eastern part of the state with their issues with hurricanes and stuff also has things that they deal with, and we seem to be significantly having things that are running a lot higher than other parts of the state, and that's concerning. So thank you.
Yeah, I think something I would just point out to keep in mind for later in this process is the MPO has a policy that we won't cascade projects from one tier to the next unless the MPO specifically votes on doing that. In the past, we have cascaded a number of projects. I think it's just worth being cognizant of, the regional impact tier doesn't have a ton of money, and we need to think through kind of the cost and benefit. Is it worth cascading some larger projects that may be considered in this round or follow-up rounds into a tier with significantly less funding?
Thank you.
Any other questions right now? Or Tristan continues?
Did I see another hand? There are other hands up? Hello, SRC has his hand up?
No, from Asheville.
Kim, did you have your hand raised?
I did, and we're talking about the general process here. So is this the final slide for your presentation?
Oh, not even close.
Okay, let's go ahead with the presentation. I can wait.
Okay, we'll put on our seatbelts. I know you have some concerns, so we'll, Sophie, I'll let you get them in, because I think we all have some.
Okay, again, at this stage, we're at the very, very front end of what projects were submitted. And so the MPO gets 26 submittals by mode. To note, that is 26 new projects that we're planning to submit. There are also other projects that will be considered in this process. Some of them are known as carryover projects that are listed in your agenda packet. Those are projects that either have a sibling project which is if there is a project funded in the TIP or was funded in the TIP, and there's essentially another section of that project, that is given carryover status. So it's automatically put into this process, and it does not count towards our 26 project submittals. We have a very long list of carryover projects, and that includes things like additional widenings on 26, further south of 64, some of the projects that fell out of the TIP with some of the cost increases that we dealt with. So projects like Section C of the I-26 connector, the southern section of Sweeten Creek Road, those are all projects that are on the carryover list, and a number of others. So in general, we've worked with our local governments and representatives to compile a list of those 26 project submittals. So throughout the summer, we held meetings with local government staff as well as elected officials to go over what projects people would like to see added to the submittal list. We split that out by different counties. So we had a meeting with our Buncombe County TCC and board delegation, Haywood County TCC and board delegation, Henderson County, and Madison County. Just some highlights. There are several capacity projects on the carryover list. So you'll notice there's a number of widenings on I-40 as well as a few on I-26. There are numerous safety projects. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but Hendersonville Road, Tunnel Road, Smoky Park Highway, Spartanburg, Delwood Road. We have some significant planned investor projects there to submit. Also passenger rail and rail crossings. So one of the projects on the submittal list includes trying to get the funding for bringing passenger rail back to Western North Carolina. And that's something that is being discussed by a number of MPOs and RPOs as well. Bike ped improvements, we have 26 projects that are on the list from our various communities, and transit capital improvement projects we got from Haywood County and the city of Asheville. And again, just to note, all the successful projects in this process go into the Transportation Improvement Program, and we'll get a cute little map and cutout of the project information with our new fantastic tool. Some of the recommended changes that came about from when you last saw this list in August to now, that have gone through the prioritization subcommittee as well as the TCC. That includes adding a grade separated crossing at Blue Ridge Road in Black Mountain. That's something that came from the NCDOT Rail Division. Just to note here, I'm still flabbergasted that we were on a call with prioritization and Black Mountain managed to coordinate whether or not they felt good about this submittal within like 3 minutes. So hats off to Black Mountain on that front.
You got
one
lucky.
of the recommended. I'll take it. Heard bees looking good. One of the recommended changes to a project we've submitted in several rounds is to the project that formerly was on US 70 and US 74A, so Tunnel and South Tunnel Road. That's a project that we've submitted in the past. It's something that's had a corridor study done. We worked with Stephen Sparks at Division 13 to help figure out what's the best way to submit that to give it the highest chances of being funded. And what was recommended was looking at or splitting the project and submitting the section just on US 70, going from the Bowcatcher Tunnel to the South Tunnel Road intersection. That would essentially remove the planned improvements on South Tunnel Road for this round of prioritization. But to note, again, with kind of lower funding amounts estimated, and what we saw as a better chance of getting funded, that's the general recommendation. Also to note, the planned improvements on each of those stretches are quite a bit different. On US 70, what was found to be a feasible alternative was doing a number of intersection improvements that would essentially allow a road diet through that corridor. That's a corridor that's been seeing decreasing traffic volumes, has a high number of vacancies in some of the commercial properties. And so in that planning process and coordinating with DOT, again, intersection improvements as well as a road diet to make space for multimodal accommodations was recommended. South Tunnel Road was more of kind of a traditional access management project. Another recommended addition was something that came from public comments to the Buncombe County Commissioners. There were some comments that came in with concerns about the intersection of New Leicester Highway and Ramsey Road. If you go out there, it's an unsignalized intersection across a 4-lane highway, and a lot of people are making lefts across multiple lanes of traffic. And so we recommended an addition for that intersection, but when we started looking at safety statistics, we looked at just north of there's a similar intersection at Goges Branch Road. Did I pronounce it right this time? No, I didn't. Goges. At least I didn't say Gouget. Gouges Branch has a similar crash history, and Newfound Road, or Goges, sorry. Got it. And Newfound Road, further to the south, had an even more significant crash history. So we recommended adding this project. This also being multiple intersection improvements would kind of be a smaller scale project than some of the larger improvements on the list. Again, considering the budget that we'd be dealing with, trying to find some of those smaller wins, I think is something that is of greater importance. To kind of make space for that, since we only get 26 submittals, another thing that was kind of coincidentally found is, again, Stephen Sparks. I'm going to have to buy Stephen a beer, or beverage. But he was scoring the multiple projects on Merriman Avenue and trying to find the best way to make those projects competitive. In the draft project list, we had 2 projects on Merriman Avenue. One of those was a modernization from W.T. Weaver North. The other was a road diet from W.T. Weaver South to I-240. What was found was just making it one project instead of 2 would be more competitive for scoring. And again, combining the 2 frees up space for another submittal, i.e. the New Leicester Highway sidewalks. Another recommended change to the submittal list is adding its Peachtree Road extension. For those of you unfamiliar with Peachtree Road, that is a road that's currently kind of a loop in South Asheville, just south of the Blue Ridge Parkway. Right now it goes from Hendersonville Road to Hendersonville Road. As part of the MCP planning process, one thing that was recommended and is part of the MCP is looking at a potential crossing and extending Peachtree Road over to Sweeten Creek. Why is this important? This is a section of between Hendersonville and Sweeten Creek of more than 2 miles where there's no connectivity between the 2 roads. Essentially, you've got Rock Hill Road on the north, and there is no what we call relief valve in case there's a crash or something else to get over to the alternative route until you get down to Gerber Road. So the recommendation would be to add this project, provide kind of a relief valve for this section of South Asheville. And again, this is a project where We think it would be a somewhat smaller cost than some of the others that were considered, and would compete at the division needs tier, which has funding. And one thing we noted is Buncombe County's submittal list had not a lot of regional impact projects. However, we needed to make space for an additional submittal. And sorry to be a bit long-winded on this, but at first we looked at removing one of the access management projects on Hendersonville Road. On your draft list, there were initially two, one from Airport Road to Long Shoals, the other from Long Shoals to Rock Hill. At first we were considering the southern section, just because in general, it scored a little bit worse than the northern section. However, we started pulling in some of the equity data after digging in some more and found that that southern leg of Hendersonville Road was popping up with low income and limited English proficiency concerns. Also, when we looked at the score from the last round of prioritization, the score difference really wasn't that significant. The northern section scored a 45, the southern section scored a 42. So we worked with prioritization subcommittee, and we decided that the project to be removed to make place for Peachtree would be the northern section of Hendersonville Road. So that section is removed from your submittal list. The project to the south remains on. Also, Fanning Bridge Road, when that was initially brought through, that was a multi-use path. That has been changed to a sidewalk at the request of the town of Fletcher. Another project that was removed that came up through our public comment period, that's the Emma Road Sidewalk Project. That's a project that's been submitted for, I think, 1 or 2 rounds previously. It came up, public comments from Poder Emma's representative, that was not a project that was a priority of theirs, and they had some concerns about moving forward with that on the spot list. So we met with them and Buncombe County and City of Asheville staff. And so what's in your updated packet is a replacement for a sidewalk project on North Louisiana Avenue. And that goes from Mallard North to Adams Hill. And Kevin, take it away.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to put my hand down first. I have 3 things here. But the first one is just some deep gratitude. Sometimes when we're moving so fast against big timelines, things have been delayed, and you're up against the wire. It can be easy to push through. And what I heard was that MPO staff and city staff and county staff took public comment seriously and not only heard, but responded. And that's the kind of trust building that I really appreciate. I heard a lot of appreciation from the community. That's number 1. Number 2, I'm still really concerned about the deferred investment in the original Emma Road project with the crash data we have available. I hear that the engagement and outreach process could be improved, but I wanted to make sure, because we had so many great comments, that this one was heard. It comes from Andrea Golden, and it says, quote, "The Emma Neighborhood Council discussed this proposal and would like to express our concern. Our community has long expressed the importance of community input in terms of prioritizing location of sidewalks and other improvements. The sidewalks that run along North Louisiana Avenue have not yet been completed and are where the majority of neighborhood residents are forced to walk under dangerous conditions. We'd like to express our frustration that this proposal does not reflect the priority and needs of our community's lowest income residents, who are most impacted by lack of safe sidewalks due to the transportation barriers we face. We would like for a representative to visit our neighborhood association, discuss before any future sidewalk investments are earmarked for our community," end quote. And that's what happened. So I'm just going to wrap up my second point with appreciation that I heard from the Emma community to add to our engagement capacity. So they're saying that as they're working on their area plan with the county and future implementation of safety improvements that do need to happen on Emma Road, they are willing to go so far as to knock on doors. And I'm happy to help with that. But my third thing is that this is not my neighborhood, but I commute this area regularly. I'm a transit rider. I use the W5 route in this neighborhood. As a pedestrian, I'm hearing that the swap of the North Louisiana sidewalk in this situation, connecting between Mallard Drive and Adams Hill. You can see this from Google Maps. If you go like beyond the map that we see today, this is a huge gap in a corridor that provides connection between neighborhoods. It provides safe routes to schools, including Emma Elementary, Nesbitt Discovery Academy, the early childhood education at Verner Central, as well as multiple employment opportunities in the area. So while I have concerns for Emma Road, I just can't say enough how much I appreciate the staff working to provide this swap as an alternative, and I'm prepared to support it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. That's very important to hear the feedback and what we can do to improve it going forward. I think it's a very good first step, and I want to continue having those interactions with communities. So thank you.
Well, one thing I do want to just quickly mention with this project, and something that we discussed with Poder Emma, is that we definitely don't want this to fall off of the list of identified needs. Just to note, this project was on our draft list as an initial request from the city, but the crash history here is troublesome. There's a pedestrian fatality in 2018 and a disabling injury in 2020. There's not a lot of short segments of road like this that have that kind of pedestrian crash history in that kind of window. So I think we'll look forward to working with Poder Emma more in the future to kind of work through some of those concerns, but I just want to note that this is going to continue to be an identified need for consideration in the future. Moving on, another project, and this isn't in your updated agenda packet, but it came through at last evening's Henderson TAC meeting. Hendersonville and Henderson TAC requested that the Brooklyn Avenue sidewalk submittal be replaced with a different sidewalk project on North Main and Clear Creek Road. If you're not familiar with that area is seeing a ton of growth. It's a high growth corridor. The Oklawaha Greenway intersects through there. And so that was a request made by Hendersonville and the Henderson TAC. I think with that, that is the general process and the changes from the draft list to the current list. We're not stopping there. Also, the Land of Sky RPO generously had extra submittals that they were willing to provide to the MPO. Vicki, do you want to talk about that really quick?
Sure. They were extra submittals in the bike ped category. So we have generously given the MPO 4 sidewalk projects scattered about the non-municipal areas of Buncombe County. And while they were, I probably could have filled the highway submittals in other areas to benefit the rural areas of Buncombe County and also the folks in Haywood County, because when I-40 shuts down, 1923 sees a lot of pressure. The RPO is submitting a modernization project on Old 19, which is from US 1923 at the Kubota dealership, the Young's Cove Road, which would include an intersection improvement at Candler School Road, if anyone's familiar with that intersection, and also an access management project from NC 151, Pisgah Highway, out to SR 1200 or Wiggins Road at exit 37. The last Buncombe County exit on I-40, and again, that 1923 is the relief valve for I-40, and if you've tried to go from Buncombe to Haywood County on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Sunday and Tuesday.
Yeah, it's pretty much any day. It gets pretty bad through there, so, to address that, the RPO has, requested that those 2 roadway projects be submitted on behalf of the RPO, but within the MPO boundary.
Very gracious.
We appreciate the generosity, thank you, Lance, by RPO. More projects to put into the hopper. Another couple quick changes. One other project on the draft list, that was the Park Street modernization in Canton. Thank you to Steve Williams, who scored some different ways to submit that project. We've changed that to 1923 roadway upgrade from Chestnut Mountain Road to NC 215. So that includes Park Street, but extends out to where the funded 1923 project terminates. So that would be a larger project than what was on the draft list, but it's through Steve's analysis, it looks like it would score better, and also it could potentially provide a full connection to Chestnut Mountain. And finally, MPO and NCDOT staff met to discuss a carryover project U5972. That's the access management project on New Leicester Highway from Patton up to Newfound Road. That was submitted and funded as access management. At some point, the project changed to multiple intersection improvements. We had some meetings to discuss some concerns about making that change. I'm thankful to DOT for taking the time and making the change back to an access management project. So thank you to Hannah, Brian Wirt, and the project consultant for hearing us on that front. Please do, if you haven't already, look through the project list. I'm not planning on going through project by project. I think we've worked with a lot of you directly on creating this list. But one thing I do want to take a quick moment to kind of go through is that we do get a lot of questions of, hey, this project is called this, but what does that actually mean? So just really, really quickly, with some of the ones that we get that question the most, with access management, in general, this is kind of the typical cross-section from NCDOT that we'd be submitting. With the multimodal features, we generally refer to the local plans about what to include, as well as the FHWA bikeway selection guide. But this is really kind of the key cross-section. The key feature with access management is the addition of a median, as well as an attempt to consolidate driveway cuts. Why do we do this? It's not just to make drivers upset about making left turns harder. I'm not
Makes it easier, actually.
Yeah, well, it makes it safer. But the key thing there is it's shown to be, it's a proven safety countermeasure for FHWA. So we have a lot of 5-lane roads where, you know, that center lane is referred to as a suicide lane. That's not a good thing. And so this is kind of the typical cross-section from NCDOT, a 17.5-foot median. I will just note that every single one of these, I tend to be annoying and saying, do we really need 17.5 feet? Seeing if there's any way we can minimize that. But in general, this is what we're talking about submitting. With modernization roadway upgrades, a lot of what we're talking about is kind of adding some of those, or making the road go up to standards. In some of our more rural areas, what we're generally talking about is bringing the width up to standards, as well as adding paved shoulders to bike lanes, as well as looking at intersection improvements through the corridor, both for safety and traffic flow. But there's kind of a number of different ways to look at these types of upgrades. I'd say this is kind of a more urban cross-section, bike lanes, sidewalks, curb and gutter to help reduce the footprint of the road. But also, you know, potentially having a shared use path. The 1923 project that we just talked about, having a side path as part of that project is a key feature to connect downtown Canton to the Chestnut Mountain Park, where there's a whole lot of mountain bike activity going on. And finally, road diet. We do have a few road diet projects on the submittal list. Why are we doing it? You know, in general, again, the safety benefits, it's considered a proven safety countermeasure from FHWA, 19 to 47% reduction in total crashes. And in general, what we're talking about is a reduction in the number of travel lanes, usually from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. I think we have another project in Black Mountain that would be partially a 5-lane to a 3-lane. In general, we tend to get questions about, you know, the project just says modernization, what does that mean? I hope that provides a little bit of clarity about what we're actually submitting. But again, today, what we're looking for is final approval of that project list. So you have projects listed for highway improvements, bike head improvements, rail improvements, and transit improvements. Our deadline for submitting these projects is next week. And so this is an action that we need approval from this board to move forward with.
Is there any other discussion we need to have? Or do we want to hear Tristan talk a little bit more? Is there any other concerns, or can we move forward with the motion? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Jennifer is first.
Second.
Second, was that Ann?
It was Amanda Edwards.
Amanda, thank you, Amanda. And Logan, you're on.
All right. Asheville Kim Roney.
Aye.
Asheville Maggie Ullman.
Aye.
Black Mountain Archie Pateller.
Aye.
Buncombe County Parker Sloan. Buncombe County Amanda Edwards.
Aye.
Flat Rock Ann Coletta.
Aye.
Fletcher Bob Davy.
Aye.
Haywood County Kevin Ensley.
Aye.
Henderson County Bill Lastly.
Aye.
Henderson County Rebecca McCall.
Aye.
Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Laurel Park George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County Matt Wexel. Aye. Mills River Shannon Gaunt.
Aye.
Montreat Tom Whitmer. Rural Transit David White. Waynesville Anthony Sutton.
Aye.
And Weaverville Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
I want to thank everyone for sticking through that. That's a lot, and I really appreciate everyone's attention. I think it was very engaging with everyone, so thank you. Next, I think is our last business item, and it's item 4C, which is Safe Streets for All Steering Committee roster.
I have to go to a meeting, but there will need to be a change on Madison County.
Okay.
Okay.
It will not be Forrest, it will be Daniel.
Daniel Metcalf?
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know. Hannah, do you want to take this one away?
Yes. So, as most of you all know, the French Road River MPO and the Land of Sky RPO were awarded a Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan back in, I believe, FY22, so earlier this year, and we released our RFLOI on September 22nd. And proposals are due November 10th at 5 p.m. We've had a lot of interest so far from consultants, so that's really great. We look forward to getting under contract soon. And as part of the plan, we have outlined that the consultant will work with a steering committee that we're going to put together, composed of staff members from member governments and MPO and RPO staff. The steering committee will help select the consultant. They'll also be able to provide valuable input for their jurisdiction in the steering committee meetings. We have a draft list of steering committee members that we've selected, and these members have been contacted by us, and all of them have said yes, so that is wonderful. But the draft list of steering committee members are for Division 13, Hannah Cook, Division 14, Steve Williams, Asheville, Chris Cairns, Buncombe County, William High, Hendersonville is Brent Detweiler, Henderson County, Autumn Radcliffe, Waynesville, Elizabeth Teague, Haywood County, Jody Ferguson, Madison County, Forrest Gillum, Brevard, Aaron Bland, Transylvania County, Darby Terrell, and the NCDOT Division Safety Unit, Brian Murphy and Scott Collier. And we are looking for a recommendation to have these people be the steering committee members for our Safe Streets for All Action Plan grant.
And to note, Vicky did recommend changing the Madison County representative from Forrest Gilliam to Daniel Metcalf.
Okay.
So what we need from this group is just an approval of the SSA 4A Action Plan Committee roster with the change of Madison County to Daniel Metcalf.
This is Kim Roney from Asheville, and with appreciation for staff that on this important step on the path towards getting the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act funds to invest in capital projects in Western North Carolina, I move to approve.
Thank you, Kim. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Your last time.
All right, Asheville Kim Roney,
Aye.
Asheville Maggie Ullman,
Aye.
Black Mountain Archie Taylor,
Aye.
Buncombe County Parker Sloan,
Aye.
Buncombe County Amanda Edwards,
Aye.
Flat Rock Ann Coletta,
Aye.
Fletcher Bob Davy,
Aye.
Davis County Kevin Ensley, Henderson County Bill Lastly,
Aye.
Henderson County Rebecca McCall,
Aye.
Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley,
Aye.
Laurel Park George Banta,
Aye.
Madison County Matt Wexel,
Aye.
Mills River Shannon Gaunt,
Aye.
Montreat Tim Widmer,
Tom Whitmer. Aye.
Laurel Transit David White, Waynesville Anthony Sutton,
Aye.
and Weaverville Catherine Cordell.
Aye.
Thank you.
The ayes have it.
Thank you. So now we're moving on to the informational items. So the first one is the memorandum of understanding update.
First and only, so the memorandum of understanding is an administrative document for the MPO that we don't talk about very much, but is a very important document. This is essentially the document that sets up who is part of the MPO, how the MPO works, and the responsibilities of the MPO. It generally gets updated once a decade. And so with us, we've been waiting for the approval of our planning boundaries before moving forward with this update. So we are kind of proposing a timeline in terms of how we want to go through this update. In November, we're planning to develop a survey for MPO representatives to talk about the different things in the MOU and some potential changes that folks would like to see. From there, we'll be discussing the survey results, going through and working with the prioritization subcommittee to draft a new MOU, And from there, that would come back to the TCC and board. To note, this is a different kind of document. This isn't something that just goes to the TCC and board and we're done. When the board approves the draft MOU, it goes to every single member government in the MPO for their councils to sign off on. So I think last time this was updated, that was roughly 6-month process. But to note, it is something that is quite different, and we'll be looking to you all to help coordinate going through the different councils to get that approved. A few quick things on, kind of the highlights of this document. One of the clear ones is MPO membership, who's on the MPO. There's a few kind of easy changes that we need to make. One of them is that Transylvania County, there used to be a little nub of Transylvania County in the MPO. They were considered a non-voting member. With the new MPO boundaries, there's no Transylvania County. So we plan to remove that board seat. There's also some kind of antiquated references in the MOU. State Bicycle Committee representatives. That committee has not existed for a number of years. So those would be additional seats on the TCC that we would be removing. Also, MPO members to add, there are transit representatives that have been added via amendment, but we would make that an official part of the MPO MOU. Also, the definition of quorum, I'm just going to come out and say it. The way we define quorum is not quite calculus, but it's somewhat close. We define it based on active members. If people don't attend 2 meetings in a row, they are no longer considered an active member and don't count towards quorum. This was huge for the MPO in the past. When I started here, we averaged between 5 and 8 board members per meeting. Out of a board of 28, the typical way you do that, you would not get quorum. But defining quorum by active membership, I think, was very helpful in the past. For right now, I will say our our attendance is quite high. We haven't had that issue, but I think it's still a good way for us to move forward. Also, the voting power is a big part of this document. How do we distribute different MPO board seats and votes? There's a couple of sections on special kinds of votes to call. There's veto votes, which is for non-interstate roads that go through a local jurisdiction. A member can call for a veto vote and essentially get a veto power in that vote. There's also weighted voting, which has come up a few times over the last few years. Any jurisdiction immediately impacted by a project can call for a weighted vote, and that member's vote counts as 3 votes. So we can go through that. I will note that the last time I checked, we have the 2nd largest board of any MPO in the state. So I'll do what you all say, but if you want to add a bunch of board seats, I don't know, please, we can talk about it. But and just going through MPO roles and responsibilities. So again, this is kind of a big document to update, an important document to update. We've got a link to the current one in your agenda packet, but we just wanted to get this on everyone's radar. There will be follow-up steps to go through and make considerations.
It's about 6 to 7 months worth of work.
Yep.
On your proposed timeline, you need to change to 2024?
No, yes, I do. I didn't even want to start thinking about 2024, but yes, we'll definitely, I will not be going back in time for that.
My stairs just came to mind. Anyway. Okay, thank you. Looking forward to that. Now we'll move on to regular updates. NCDOT Division 13.
This is Hannah online. I'll cover the updates for Division 13. Great, let's start with construction. Couple of things to point out. Wanted to just verbally mention, I'm not entirely sure what the contract number is, but we're beginning a project to repair the left lane of I-40 westbound between I-26 interchange and the Smoky Park Highway interchange. That work should have started last night, but we'll have a full-time lane closure starting this coming Monday night. So essentially the crews will install nightly lane closures between 8 p.m. and 6 a.m. Each night through Sunday. And that's really just to remove the existing pavement markings ahead of the traffic shift that's coming to put in the permanent lane closure that will start Monday night. That permanent lane closure essentially just shifts traffic several feet to the right of the inside lane so that we could put in a barrier and close that lane to do the concrete repairs. And they are expecting that work to be completed by the week of Thanksgiving, presuming we don't have any delays due to weather. So expect that in the coming week and weeks if you travel through that area. As I want to touch on I-4700 or the I-26 widening. Work continues on the new westbound lanes between the Parkway and the Brevard Road interchange. We're making really good progress since our last traffic switch that occurred a couple months ago. Since that switch, they have been able to start on the second half of the Blue Ridge Parkway Bridge. So you'll see that bridge lengthening over time. Also a lot of progress on pavement removal and grading operations on the eastbound lanes between Glen Bridge Road and Airport Road. So a lot going on out there. Just be careful as you travel through the project as always. There's a ton of pedestrian safety projects on this list, kind of in the Asheville jurisdiction. There's a pedestrian project at the intersection of Patton and Haywood, and that's just to install some ped signalization and crosswalks. They were supposed to start that the beginning of October, but they're now saying the end of October, so next week. And they're still anticipating that to be done the first week of December, so that's good. French Broad River Bridge, this is Amboy Road. I think that they've removed the temporary signal and lane closure out there. If not, it's coming in the next few days. There was, for some reason, they were supposed to only have that in for 30 days, but they're over that now by about a week. But they are still anticipating finishing that one as well the first week of December. So I think there's a couple more on there that haven't gotten started. I think they're doing a PED project at the intersection of Emma and North Louisiana. And they've been doing some improvements on Tunnel and South Tunnel as well. That's it for construction, unless there's any questions about this list.
Any questions? Okay.
SARS project development, very brief. This is essentially the STIP, the 2024 to 2033 STIP dates. As I always mention, just keep in mind anything with right-of-way and construction between fiscal years 24 and 28. You can presume that we are actively moving forward with engineering on those projects, and anything after that, meaning right-of-way in 28 or later, those are your projects that are kind of remaining on hold for now and will recompete in P7 for funding. So this isn't just our prioritization projects. You'll see on here some federally funded bridge projects, some ARC projects, bike ped projects that are locally selected, meaning your STVGDA projects. So anything in the STIP, not just our prioritization or STI projects. I don't think there's anything on here as far as schedule changes to draw your attention to that have occurred since last month that weren't covered earlier in the STIP amendment. So that's it for project development.
Any questions?
A couple of quick questions. Hannah, well, more of a comment, but with the Craven Street bridge improvements, we brought this up at TCC. This is a project that's been on the books for a little while, and DOT is, I believe, looking into an express design. Hannah, can you kind of update the group on some of the stuff you've been looking into?
Yeah, so I think we only tasked the consultant with looking at two options. One, is it feasible to widen the existing bridge for the multi-use path? They determined that it's not from a hydraulic standpoint. So our really only feasible option is to do a standalone pedestrian bridge or bike ped bridge, not a pedestrian bridge. I think they got a proposed 12 feet for the actual like width of the facility. On the north side of the existing structure, I don't think they've completed the estimates for that standalone structure yet. They're kind of waiting for comments from the city and the division. And once they, hear back from us before their deadline that they've given us, I think was the 1st of November, then they'll move forward with the estimates. I presume at that time we'll come back and talk about the cost and kind of next steps for the project, its schedule, whether it needs to remain programmed and just delay it, or ways to come up with additional funding, because I'm not sure how much is programmed for the project, but I'm pretty sure it's not enough for a standalone structure. So kind of to be continued until those estimates come back.
Yeah, I think the estimate on that is from 2013, so a little landslide. Yeah, but thank you, Hannah, for looking into that. Also, do you know if there's any plans for looking at the designs for Haywood Road? I think there was a meeting in the summer, but there were plans to kind of come back and discuss more refined designs. Do you know if there's any meetings coming up for that?
I have not heard of any. Brendan is managing that. I will check with him for an update and provide it to you. I haven't heard of anything scheduled. I know you guys met within the past couple of months, but I'm really not sure beyond that, but I can check.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much, Neil. Now, Division 14.
All right. So, construction side of things, as we've been saying for quite some time now, if you're traveling I-40 west, please be aware of the pavement rehab projects ongoing there. It's mostly ramps and shoulders now, but there are still lane closures at night, and they'll continue paving as long as they can until it gets too cool, and then they'll knock off and finish that up next year. And then if you go further west on I-40, the bridge projects there on Jonathan Creek that are under construction. The intersection project, Walnut and Main in Waynesville, is mostly complete. And then otherwise, we just have sidewalk projects and bridge projects and the one sidewalk project there at Maggie Valley in Haywood County. The I-26 project is kind of the same as what Hannah was saying. Just be aware of lane shifts. Lane closures are being announced through the media, and I think MPO is doing a good job of getting those out. The Green River Bridge project, there will be lane shifts upcoming, and there will be a press release for that as well. It's supposed to happen within the next month and a half. Holland Lake Road, that completion date has changed. Ann actually alerted me to that a while ago, but it's just recently gotten into our system, and that'll be in December of 2024. So moved out a couple of months. Of course, it may move out further as the project goes on. So I think that's it, unless somebody has any construction questions before we move on to project development. Okay. Won't repeat what Hannah said, but everything that she had said holds true here. The dates are what's in the current STIP. It's the same projects that you've been seeing for quite some time now. Of course, nothing's been added, but the same projects. Most schedules held except for bridge projects, and they did tend to move out a ways on some of them. Does anybody have questions on project development projects?
I think, Steve, something you mentioned at a different meeting is something we've discussed in the past is kind of the Russ Avenue project and the bridges over Richland Creek and kind of the timing of those projects. With the new LEP date, are the plans to essentially have those projects going on at the same time?
Yes.
still making people happy in Haywood County.
Yeah, it's just a funding issue. I mean, and the redesign of the bridges, it's just kind of falling out that way. Has it changed schedules because of funding, because it could go away?
Good, thank you. Next is Transportation Planning Branch, Daniel Sellers.
Good afternoon. 3 quick updates from me. One, the freight bulletin came out last week right after the TCC meeting, so they didn't get to have my quick summary of that. But if you're not on that mailing list, some of the highlights was that in August we hit a high for congestion on our freight network in the state, tying the other highest month back in 2021. And that is a high as of the 5 years that we've been analyzing the data. So going back to 2019, it was about a 6% increase compared to the same month last year. And then also from that same bulletin, the 2 locations in the region that have been a top 10 bottleneck for the last year are still in the top 10, though they have been falling. And those are the construction sites out on I-40 at exit 20 and exit 37. 2 other updates or previews of updates that are going to be coming your way in the next couple meetings. We have a CTP amendment in the works, and obviously we do MTP amendments more often. But the current CTP is back from 2008. And we thought it would be a good effort to get it in alignment with the current MTP and update it to our modern mapping and data management standards. And then as part of that, we also had the opportunity to look at a couple extra modernization projects and add those to the list. And so that kind of 3 stool pedestal will be introduced next month. We'll talk about it. And we'll be looking to make amendments after that. And thank you, Tristan, for earlier today going over what a modernization project is. It helps me not have to explain it, but I will explain it again next month. The other update that's in the works is travel demand model updates. Of course, the model serves as a backbone to a lot of our planning and forecasting efforts as far as traffic goes, to make sure we have good unified numbers to work with. One of the foundations of the model are the transportation analysis zones, which are built off census data. And since we just had a new census, we have to build new zones. And we will present those soon. As part of that, just as kind of a tidbit or a appetizer of what's coming, we did end up adding about an additional 20% to the number of zones we use. The major benefit of that is that it gives us more fidelity where there's been growth, and we can look at it on a little finer scale. Most of those zones have ended up along I-26 and I-40. The drawback is we have to maintain more data, and the model takes a little longer to run, but computers keep getting faster, so that's not usually a big deal, as long as we kind of keep pace. So Tristan and his team have worked really hard to help develop those and to populate all the data, and excited to move on to the next step of model development. This is only the beginning. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Any questions for Daniel? Moving on to FHWA updates. Who's that?
Hello, everyone. I just have a few updates for you. They're in your agenda packet as well. If there are any that you will just go through and read whichever ones you're interested in. If there are any questions you have, you can reach out to me or whoever the contact is for that particular link. But I'll just talk about 3 of the items. The first one is that there is a NOFO out there for Bridge Investment Program. So it's for large bridge projects, so $100 million or more. And those, for the next 3 years, those deadlines are out. So if there are projects you're interested in, but you don't think you'd be able to apply for it this year, well, they have the deadlines for the next coming ones, and you can certainly talk to NCDOT about any bridge projects that you're interested in that you guys can apply together for. The next one is the electric vehicle charging infrastructure. There's a $100 million grant available, and it's for the repair and replacement for existing electric vehicle charging stations that are not operational. And so they've pretty much said in the NOFO, if you go through it, they pretty much said that they'll be able to give funding to whoever applies. So just read through and see if that's an opportunity that you guys can take advantage of. And there's some upcoming discretionary grant deadlines that I've listed in this update, as well as there are some webinars that are upcoming, and there are ones that have passed as well, but I'm sure they also have recordings for those. And then one last update is the 2024 Environmental Excellence Award. So if you know of any project, process, partners, or individuals who have who have put in environment into their projects or ideas or processes, then please nominate them or self-nominate. And that deadline is November 3rd, 2023. And those are all my updates for you today.
Perfect. Does anyone have any questions for Suzette, or you can reach out to her later if she so graciously agreed to? Thank you, Suzette.
Thank you.
Next is the subcommittee work group reports. Staff update.
Sure, I won't go through each and every one of these, but our subcommittees are active and continuing to work. I think the main one that's meeting monthly without pause is the prioritization subcommittee, going through the submittal list. And my apologies, they did meet in October, and talked about project submittals, locally administered projects, and the memorandum of understanding update. Just to note, we are kind of meeting informally with what we're calling the locally administered projects work group. We're essentially pulling in the project managers and sponsoring governments with a lot of locally administered projects to talk about some of the issues they're facing in the project development process, things the MPO can do to improve the process, and things that we can communicate to NCDOT to try to communicate issues that folks are experiencing. We did have that meeting, is that yesterday or?
Yeah.
Oh, good Lord. Been a week, folks. Also the transit operators work group, they did meet fairly recently and talked about the regional transit study that DOT is undertaking, as well as the 5307 funding updates. That group has been active. We do need to get another meeting on the books. Normally at this time of year, we have call for projects for 5310 and job access reverse commute transit projects. We are holding off on that for the time being. And so we'll be discussing some of that and some of the issues with that group and figure out steps forward to get those funds programmed. Also of note, one of the committees that hasn't met in a very long time is the Citizens Advisory Committee. That's a committee that generally is overseeing the MPO's public engagement process. Logan has been reaching out to different community groups to get a refreshed roster for that group. And also we're planning to give them more of a charge to focus on the MPO's goal of developing a more equitable transportation system. I think there's a lot to unpack. That's I think a very good goal, but there's things to really figure out in terms of how we want to set those priorities and the data that we want to use and the engagement strategies we want to use to make that effective. So that's a planned item for next month to bring a new roster. But if there are community members and community groups that you think would have a real interest in the transportation planning process, please let them and/or us know. We'd be happy to reach out and at least initiate some of those conversations. Those are the main things from the committees and work groups. The one legislative item that I would bring up is something we brought up in the past, Senate Bill 512. That was the bill that redistributed how Board of Transportation members are selected. Previously, that was the governor. Another bill relatively recently was governor appointments plus some from the General Assembly. Senate Bill 512 made it solely from the General Assembly. That's something the governor vetoed. That veto was overridden. But I think what one of our board members who understands this stuff better than I do mentioned, it's likely to be something to play out through the courts.
And from what I understood in the paper the other day or online, the governor has already filed a lawsuit.
No, but do we have representation?
Yeah, my understanding is the current board will continue to be intact, but I think that's something that we'll see how it plays out. Also, just to note, this is something we share monthly with prioritization, but we do track the amount of delay that's being experienced on our region's roads. So we've been tracking that by county. Haywood County, you can tell when I-40 bridges were having issues earlier this year.
We beat Buncombe.
Yeah, there was a month where take the Buncombe roads, not the Haywood roads. So that's something we track. Also, just to note, we have been keeping an eye on Merriman Avenue with some of that same data. And at first, it really looked concerning with the section of road diet. But with the more recent data, it is decreasing. And in September, there was less overall delay on that section than any month in 2019. Also of note, this came up in the Henderson TAC yesterday, and for our 5-county region, just to note, this tends to be the time of year when we experience and see more pedestrian crashes. There's an uptick, usually from late September onwards. That's not just our region. A lot of other places tend to experience that. Just to note, just a reminder, be safe, be aware. This time of year, we do tend to see more of those crashes.
We had a horrible one yesterday.
Right.
Is that because of fallback?
I think that's the general theory is that, you change daylight savings. People are still out and about, but there's less sunlight. So a lot of the issues with roadways tend to be exacerbated at that time of year.
Tristan, this is Daniel. I'll also add that in one of my safety updates a year ago or so, daylight savings also plays a role in animal vehicle collisions because the animals don't change their clocks like we do. And so you start seeing them more prevalently.
Thank you. That's right. Topics for the next meeting?
I think next meeting we'll talk about Systems Advisory Committee, and I think we will be reaching out to DOT for some updates on some of the major projects that are underway or set to begin soon.
The next public comments. Do we have any public comment?
I don't think so.
No. Thank you, everyone, for your time today, and I really appreciate it. So with that, we will adjourn.